Hi, this is Wihout, and forgive me for the kind of funky thumbnail I've got going because I couldn't seem to get zoomed. So, anyway, this is a live stream, but it's a card reading for the new moon solar eclipse in Cancer, which is happening on July 12th. Here I'm in the Eastern US time zone, so it's happening at 10 p.m. So, the first thing I want to talk about is a couple issues with the astrology, or maybe issues seems like kind of a strong word. But, oh, actually, even before that, I want to thank those of you who allowed me to do a free reading for you. It was super fun, really interesting. I really enjoyed being able to correspond with you. If you're a person who requested one and I didn't get back to you, so you think maybe the email was lost in spam or something like that, please leave a comment and I'll try to get hold of you so that we can do that. It was really my privilege to do it, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you, everybody who participated. So now let's get to the astrology. I'm holding up this thing and we'll see if I can get it like sort of focused. Okay, so I'm assuming you can always just freeze your screen if you want to take a closer look at it, or there will be plenty of places online you can look at it. But what I wanted to point out is if you see the blue lines here with the triangles, those are trines, which are supportive angles between like signs. So, for example, this is Venus in Virgo, and it's trined over here with Uranus in Taurus because Venus is at 3 degrees, Uranus is at 2 degrees. So these are reinforcing each other. So Venus in Virgo really cares about the methods by which you are going to achieve abundance in love and money or otherwise. It's really methodological, but in a way that is designed to bring health and stability. Then Uranus in Taurus is also dealing with the material world. It's the classic second house and will be the second house at the time of this new moon partial solar eclipse. And it wants to bring new methods, bring new things into being. There's a lot of touch and feel here. And we also have that in trine with Saturn here, which is at 4 degrees of Capricorn. Some people have trouble with Saturn. I mean, I guess everybody does because it is a planet of karma and limitations and time. And it can feel like something you struggle against, but it can also be something that is on your side. It can allow you to create justice, so to speak, or rebalance in areas that have gotten out of hand. It's very strong. It's very reliable. So you can see we have this very strong earth trine here, and I think it's a very abundant earth trine, but it is talking about setting up new ways of doing things and getting concrete about it, and being mindful of your time and the way that you spend it, and your resources and the way that you spend them. So the other thing I will say is we've got the moon and the sun together because that's what makes a new moon, but it's also, in this case, what makes a partial solar eclipse because we've got the north node of the moon gets involved. So this is a partial solar eclipse in Cancer. So there's going to be a lot of very watery, emotional, maternal energy. And eclipses are always working on axes. So the other side of Cancer, which would be the sort of maternal side, is Capricorn, which is the paternal side. And there is Pluto here in Capricorn. So there's a very sort of powerful, strong presence there in Capricorn. But you also have Black Moon Lilith there, and she's pretty anti-authoritarian. And so I feel like with the stress here on new things and on uncovering your deep wisdom, there is a sense to me that you are not necessarily going to be investing more into very large organizations or very large structures like this. Mars in Aquarius is retrograde, that you're going to sort of leave behind some of the organizations or structures or methods of doing things that you used to rely on and that you used to actually invest power in terms of giving it your proxy or your endorsement or your approval. And that there's a sense that there's this new creation on a more personal level, and with Mercury in Leo, a personally expressive level, a way in which your personal work, your personal expression of the things you do and the way you do it, which may come about in some new ways. You may add some new tools in your toolkit. And the way in which you do that has ripples, big ripples, here with this solar eclipse in Cancer. So that while you're thinking, I'm doing this personal expression, what you're actually doing is really helping other people. You are creating abundance for other people. Even if you just think that you're helping one person, or even if the one person you think you're helping is yourself, like I just have to get out some of this, this feeling I have, or I have to digest these memories, I have to process this intuition that I have. And the ways in which you express that are not necessarily going to be working in the traditional paths that they used to, but they are, as you bring them into being, going to be very strong in terms of their manifested presence in the world, right? So you think of a new way of expressing something about yourself, about your life, about the work you want to do, and it's a new way, or at least a new way for you, and you bring it into being, and all of a sudden you find that it's really helpful to other people, that it's really inspiring to them, and that it becomes a way that you provide service in the world, and in fact may become part of a next gig for you. The eclipse energies tend to go for 6 months or so. This is powerful because, as I've been saying, and I know other people have been saying, the veil is thin right now. So these intuitions you're getting are from your deep self, but they're possibly from other places too, from the other side, from your ancestors, from your spirit guides, from whoever it is that you welcome in that kind of relationship. So there's really a sense that you can bring forth something new and interesting, or put a new twist on it in a surprising way, and that even if the stuff you're doing feels like it's small scale, it in fact can have much larger ripples than you're probably imagining at this point. But you're not necessarily going to be looking for someone else's approval on that. You're doing this from a keen personal sense. You're just trying to shine your light. You're just trying to get it out there into the world. Like, I'm going to carve this ice sculpture, and I don't care if nobody sees it, and if it melts tomorrow, I have to do this because I want it to exist. And that is going to become a powerful statement that other people can benefit from. And especially as we have the North Node in Leo, that's the area we're heading towards. This ability for personal expression to be a kind of generous sharing, not to feel like it's just insular or miserly or selfish to do that, but that is a kind of inspired sharing that we pass around to all of each other, and that we strengthen each other through that sort of communal sharing of individual experiences. So, anyway, I wanted to mention another thing, and that is, oh, and let me get my iPad here so that I can see what's going on. Um, Sorry about the delay here. I just got to dial this up. Oh, I can tell you before I turn off this program, we're going to head into a total eclipse. That's a total lunar eclipse on July 27th. And so that's going to be happening in Aquarius. So we have this sort of eclipsing out of this Aquarian energy, which can be the energy of organizations and futurism. But I feel like it's the end of us looking to other people to tell us where the future lies, and finding the seeds of the future within yourself, instead of looking outwards and going, oh, you have to tell me where the future is, and you have to lead to where the future is, and then I will sort of gather in the vanguard behind you. This is more like we all start our own parades, but instead of it being disorganized, we have a sense of like a really big party. Yeah, everybody's having their own party and everybody's having their own parade, but it creates this collective spirit that is really useful and nurturing to people and inspiring to people. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm reading it. So if I just want to go into YouTube here so that I can see what I'm all about. Come on, come on. Here we go. All right, sorry for the delay. Oops. Yeah, I got to get this sound down too. Sorry about that too. All right. Okay, so everything takes a little bit of arrangement, but I've got 3 cards here, which is actually a playing card, a tarot card from the Zircus Magi deck. This is the Bicycle Stargazer deck, and then I've got a Lenormand card in here. So if you want, you can decide to deal with these like a pick a card reading and just pick a pile and see what that has to say about specific issues in your life. You can also decide, because I'm going to read the foundations, the bottom of the decks first, and that's kind of the collective energy for everybody. You can also just take the whole mass of cards and read it as, present, past, future. You can also take this as here's where you're standing, sort of right on the earth, and this is the deeper internal issues, and these are external issues. So however you'd like to do it, and like I said, you can deal with it like a pick a card if that sort of vibes for you right now. We're talking about trying new things and doing things in interesting ways, at least for us. So another thing I'm going to suggest, I don't know if you put water out for the full moon, or the new moon rather, or recharge your crystals for the new moon, or do anything with that. But if you have any windowsill, even behind a curtain that's open to the sky, that is a good place to just put something that is a little inspiration, a little amulet or talisman for you, that connects you to your deep wisdom and helps you feel loved, connects you with that sort of universal love current. So a lot of people will put water out in a sealed container. They might put crystals around the bottom of that container. Not every crystal likes to be in water, and some crystals can actually leach things into the water that aren't good to drink. So if you're making an elixir that you plan to drink, look up that crystal first, or just put it around the base of whatever container you're planning on drinking from. And that's close enough. That'll work well. Glass is great that way. And especially if you have a little crystal glass, like leaded crystal, it will kind of amplify the crystal energies and kind of make you a nice little elixir. So if you've never tried that, that could be fun. Another thing that I do, and I will show you, this is, let's see if we can get this in focus. I hope this is focused for you. Try and focus this. These are matches. These are just cheap little matches, but I put them on my windowsills and I write down basically what I've charged them with. So these were with a new moon eclipse in Virgo. These have been out on the sill in a full moon in Leo, a full moon in Virgo on the dates, and a full moon in Capricorn. So I've got this Virgo, Capricorn, Leo energy. So these are very grounded, but then there's just that touch of fire. So I'm looking at these as a way to be practical, but also to kind of kindle that expression. So you can see in these astrological signs that there's an echo of Mercury's in Leo right now, and I need that inspiration. And then we've got all this earth energy to help me bring things into being. So I have bunches of different ones of these that I put on my windowsill at different times and I write them down. So it's kind of a funny little thing, but then these are the matches that I use to light my little candles. So if I'm sitting down to work on something, I pick a match that kind of suits the mood I'm in or what I'm trying to do. So the candle I lit now that's actually burning on the little shelf next to me is lit with these matches, because for me this kind of goes with the time and space. So this is a little bit of a funny idea, but you could put your incense on the windowsill and charge it up with the moon. You could put a lighter if that's what you use to light your candles, but give yourself the chance. You could also, actually you could put coins and some of your crystals, of course, to charge up. But if there's something that you carry with you as a little pocket totem or a little kind of good luck charm, that's a great thing to put on the windowsill or outside during the new moon, because this is a very powerful one and it's got very deep psychic currents. There's a lot of juice out there now. So think about finding some way to put a net of your own design and your own delight. Put your own net out there and capture some of this to carry with you and to inspire you at the times that you really want it and need it. Because we've got this earth trine, it is a time to stay grounded. So you want to make sure you're doing physical things that connect you to your body, because there's a lot of psychic energy. As I've said, the veil is very thin. You can feel kind of swimmy headed or have a sense of vertigo, that kind of thing. And you want to make sure that you're grounded in your body so that you can make the most use of this inspiration without feeling washed away by it, if that makes sense. And that Saturn is going to help you provide an anchor, right? Because if the seas are a little rocky or weird or strange, you don't want your little ship to end up in a whole nother place you never planned. So you want to sink an anchor, and physical activity is a really good way to do that. So, dance, sing, exercise, take a nice walk, touch the trees outside, put your feet in the earth, however it is you like to do it, or try some new way, which will be benefited now. It's a great idea to do. So let's go on to the foundation cards, which are for the collective. So I'm going to start with the tarot card over here. I'm going to grab it from up here. Okay. All right. So the tarot card we have is the whole show, which is the World card in reverse. Let me show it to you upright. And I had the thought, actually, right before I grabbed this deck, whether or not I should flip it, because I'm a card flipper, so things go up to down when I flip them over. So I had a question about this one just as I grabbed it, which makes me think that it sort of applies in the upright and in the bottom. The whole show as the card of the world has to do with completions, yes, but also new births. And we're looking at this horse with a balloon and the world with the tent below and these constellations around. I hope you can see them. Can you see the constellations around it? There's a sense of command and of luck, of having mastered, in a sense, the wheel of fortune. So if you have the whole show in reverse, it might mean, it's still a great card, but it could mean that you're at the cusp of mastering something or finishing something. That is certainly true for me. I have a long process I'm getting to the end of. But this might also apply in any sense. This is a card of skills gained. It's a card of being at the end of something, not at the beginning, and of having had to master a lot of different circumstances and a lot of different capacities. So let's see how that plays into the Lenormand card. Woman, Venus. Okay, so if you're a woman, this applies to you. The whole show. It can also apply, because it's Venus, to the idea of love and abundance. Venus is in Virgo. So we've got the idea of love and money. And it could be that this means you are finding the ability to really feel sufficient within yourself. And this doesn't mean that you don't need other people or love other people or care for other people, but this is a sense of capacity in yourself. And then this card too, I wondered if I should flip over. So this card is the Seven of Diamonds. So this can be a card of accounting and prudence. This is a Virgo card as I think of it. It's a card of mastery of your time and your resources. In the upright, it is a card that says you have mastered this time and these resources. So in the reverse, which again I thought about, like, should I reverse this as I flip it? It could be that you are getting mastery of these things, but this is going to be a harvest card. This is going to be a card that has to do with time. This is going to be a card of maximizing the use of Saturn. So if I look at these together, and the whole show is a very Saturnian card as well, I look at the idea of a woman who's becoming sort of mistress of her domain, if you will, or who's, that's what I see. Like, I see the woman with the scepter who's basically got her accounts in order, who is mistress of her time, who's mistress of her endeavors, and who has a harvest that is under her control, but it's not a super tight control. It's that things are abundant and they're growing, so that harvest is assured. So I hope if you're a woman, that's where you find yourself, or where you think you're going in the near future. But there's definitely this sense of self-sufficiency, and also it being like about time. Like, oh, it's about time. So thank you, Kim. It's about time that we come into this sense of accomplishment and completion. That's what I see. There's an old virtue, prudence, and she's not only, she sounds pretty tight, probably because I associate her with a prude somehow, but she's actually about reason and logic and balance and wisdom. And so in this Cancer partial solar eclipse, there's a chance to bring a lot of wisdom and balance forward. So and that feels like a completion of something. It feels like a phase is ending and another one will begin, like the wheel is going to turn. Um, yeah, that's kind of what I feel here. So let's go into these cards and see where we're at. If you're doing a pick a card, I'm going to do this center one as 1, 2, and 3, because this is how I deal them out. And this can also be just our current status, like where we are now. So the Ring Rider, which would be the Knight of Pentacles. So again, this very earthy thing. We've got this half a circle of the zodiac above. And then we flip this. Oh, look, the white joker. Okay. This is the whip. Sort of showed up in reverse, but this is the Lenormand whip, which for me, it does have to do with Mars, but it can also do with the moon. It can do with, as you can see on this particular card, repetitive patterns. It also can do with physical activities. It can do with ways in which you punish yourself. And I feel like I've been talking to people, and it's funny that it came up in reverse. I didn't know it was shuffled in reverse. I've been talking to people about the punishments that we tend to inflict upon ourselves, like the ways we kick our own ass again and again and again. And the Joker, I call him the white Joker because the tip of his hat is white, so he's the light Joker, like the, you might think about him as the good twin, not the evil twin. But both of the Jokers have a tricksy quality, and both of them can bring you blessings. So this white Joker you can think of as like the Fool card, right? This Uranian energy coming in with surprises. So here is this Ring Rider who's operating in predictable ways. And here it can even be punishing this thing that's been going on. It can be physically punishing, it can be punishing on your time, it can be a round of arguments that never seem to stop. You know, it's kind of interesting because we have the horse and we have the whip. There's the sense that we're going round and round, and it's predictable the way it's going to go, and it's not necessarily getting us where we want to go in any sort of quick order. And then we have this energy of something fast and bright that breaks open this pattern. And that's that sort of Uranus and Taurus. Taurus is a very physical, very sensual, very five senses kind of a sign. And that's where Uranus is. And all of a sudden it's busting up something probably in your physical reality. So it's going to be something, and it doesn't have to be in a bad way, but it is like a lightning bolt, an epiphany, an inspiration that comes into your predictable day to day. For me, it's interesting that this Ring Rider is facing this way because it looks like looking toward the past. So there's a sense that there's been this repetitive pattern of the past, and there is this spark that comes into the middle of it and busts it up and says, okay, what are we doing here? Like, is this the way that we should either be behaving or spending our time or investing our energies? And, you know, the Joker is saying, it's almost like with the hand up, like, hold it a minute before you go through and do this again. Hold it a minute. Is there a better way, or is there a new way? Yeah, that's kind of what I see. And it's a real difference in something in your day-to-day physical life, either an activity you do, scheduling you do, something with your resources. It could be a way that you spend your money. Yeah, it'll be something like that, the kind of exchanges you make. So it could be that you haven't been getting good value for the investments you've made of time and energy, that kind of thing. And it's been punishing to you. And the Joker is saying, you know, you don't have to do it that way. There is a change. And all of a sudden, like a lightning bolt, I think you see the change. I think it comes into you with Mercury and Leo in this really creative fashion. you get this, well, like I said, the lightning bolt. Uranus is sort of the higher octave of Mercury. So you get this inspiration that says, I don't have to do this. There was a guy I was told about, a relative of a family member, who every day when he got home from the night shift would pour a bowl of cornflakes and put water in it. Put milk in it, and then let it sit till it got mushy. And one morning after 20 years of doing this, he took a bite and went, "This is mushy." And he never had cornflakes at the end of his shift again. It was like he could have known it was mushy before, but suddenly that morning it felt like punishment to him, and he never wanted to deal with it again. And this is a little bit like that, where you look and go, these cornflakes are mushy. This is not working for me. And there's a real realization of what patterns have been punishing to you, the ways in which you've been punishing yourself. So that is where we're at now. So if you did this as a pick a card, that's where you're at now. And it does tie in with this notion from the foundation cards that we're at the end of a cycle, and a very, very significant one. And one that is tied to our love and money, one that's tied to our abundance, and one that's tied to our accounting of what we get for what we put in. So now I'm going to go into what would be the past section if you're looking at the whole reading, or if you're doing a pick a card, this could be number 2, or this could be internal circumstances if you want to think of it that way. So let's see what we get in this pile. The 10 of batons, burdens. So this would be the typical 10 of wands. So take a good look at that. We've got these funny characters on this barrel being carried by this much leaner person. So it's kind of funny. Then we've got up, 10 of hearts. Okay, which is a beautiful card. And oops, again, I've got these upside down. The scythe, which is Saturn. Okay, so we've talked about this Saturnian energy, which is sitting there in Capricorn, which can be about difficulties. But see, you see the pointy part is pointing towards the past. It's sort of like the pointy bit of this scythe is something you've already experienced. You've already experienced the pain of it. Somebody described that on this side of the scythe, it's more like a shock. You get more like a shock because it's like a bump. But it's not cutting you into pieces, right? It's more like a bump. And that's sort of this shocking joker here. But there is a sense here, and this is the Jack of Diamonds, which would correspond actually to this ring rider. There's the sense of a removal here, that you're cutting something away because you have either harvested it and it's time for the harvest, or because you realize this is a weed in your garden and it's got to go. So in the internal situation, or even in the past, you have borne up burdens. And I see 2 people here being carried by one. And this 10 of hearts for me can often be a card of family. So it can be a card of family from the past. It can also be a card of parents and children for me. So this can be a card that symbolizes a lot of harmony, but in this sense, it looks like obligation. Like imagine these 2 as the uncles of this character, saying, well, you have to carry us. We can't carry ourselves. And this, nephew has been carrying this load, which while he's carrying this load, he can't do anything else. He's dressed for the circus, but he can't go be on the high-flying trapeze because he's got to carry these uncles and their rusty barrel around. And this can really be a sense that in the past, you have been carting around some assumptions, obligations. It could be carting around the judgments that people have made on you, but it's probably tied to your family, to your deep family. So it could be they categorized you in your family as being the dumb one, or the athletic one, or the pretty one, or whatever. And this categorization that you've been carrying has been a burden to you. And it has caused you to sort of act out or embody this inheritance. But this is cutting free of unwanted inheritances. And if we look at it on the upside, right, where this is 10 of wands or 10 of clubs and this is 10 of hearts and this is the scythe, this is saying it's sort of time, you're coming in your mind to, it's time to harvest some of this. These burdens have been going on long enough. This water has been flowing abundantly enough. The storm has been raging long enough. I've been keeping everybody happy long enough. And it's time on my part to make a harvest, even if other people might find it shocking. But you're sort of being asked here to get into some shocking energy. Because if you want to put an end to some of this repetitive punishment, you're going to have to do something a little bit shocking. Could be shocking to your system, could be shocking to someone else's. But I feel like this is related to that sense of getting that epiphany, that lightning strike that says, I cannot put everything into this. And when you look at the fact these are both tens, these are the ends of a cycle, right? This is the world card. This is the end of a cycle. You've done it to death. The scythe is sort of the sickle of the Grim Reaper. You have done it to death. You do not have anything to apologize for. You've carried those burdens to the limit. You have tried to maintain consensus or agreeableness or ultimate balance. You've tried to the limit. And it's not time to try to balance things which are unbalanceable anymore. It is really time to incorporate something new. Something I always think of with the Temperance card, people go, well, you have to balance your life. And I think of the Temperance card as a card of alchemy. Sometimes you have to add something new. Sometimes it's not trying to balance the two things that you have that are unbalanceable. Sometimes you've got to put a third leg on the stool, something new that is a new ingredient that allows you to transform the others and to counterbalance them. And to me, that's what's going on here. There's been this urge between emotion and effort to keep these things in total balance. And you can see what a horrible pain it is, right? And now there's an urge to cut out that false, maybe a false sense of duality between this and that, and to say, I want this third option. I'm going to hold this up again. I'm going to use this powerful Earth trine of Saturn and Venus and Uranus to bring in a third option, to bring in something innovative and interesting, to use my intuitive and expressive self, to really bring in this new ingredient into my life that allows me to cut away the strain that I've been under, to end an unproductive cycle, especially if it's like a seesaw that's just been going this way and that way, and it's exactly the same weight on both sides, and you're just basically being whiplashed, like the whip, being whiplashed back and forth between family obligations and work obligations, or between where your heart is and what you think you need to do for your ambition, or these kinds of things. And the sense that there is this false duality being presented that doesn't leave any room for a new ingredient, for something that stirs the pot, something that makes it exciting again, and that allows you to balance these things in an entirely new way that is not so painful for you. So let's go into the third pile, which is, you can think of it as the future. You can also think of it as how you do this on the external. So this might represent internal strain. This is also pile number 3 if you decided to do it as a pick a card reading. So let's get into this. The mystagogue, which is the Hierophant. We've got the Jack of Diamonds. Here we go. Look at this. This is the Jack of Diamonds. This is the Knight of Pentacles. And this is the Jack of Diamonds. This is definitely about the way you farm, if you will, the way that you run your garden, the way that you till your farm. I'm going to turn this over this way because this is how it goes. Clouds. Interesting. Okay, this is 12th house for me. So this is Pisces. So it can be confusing. But what I'm seeing here, the mystagogue tends to be an elder. It can also be a spiritual leader because this ties into the Hierophant. This can also have to do with the way things have always been done. So traditions, it is the maintenance of traditions, but not always in a straitjacketed way. It can be in a wisdom tradition. You know, the secret books. Pisces is, yes, it's a house of confusion, but it's also a house of secrets. And when I look here at Uranus, at this Joker, I wonder whether or not you don't discover a secret for yourself. A secret that teaches you. Maybe it's a secret spiritual practice, or maybe it's a secret that you didn't know about your past. And it's something you're probably going to keep secret, at least for now. You're going to keep it close to your heart. But it is something that's going to allow you to take this creative step forward. I'm looking too, when I think of clouds, I think of Neptune as well. And so for me, this is it's like a spiritual gift as far as I can see. It's like the other thing I think of when I think of the Jack of Diamonds or the Knight of Pentacles, let's say, is I think of the traditional Rider-Waite depiction where the guy is riding actually this direction and he's got a pentacle in his hand, which is sort of like a badge of his office, but also like an offering. So it's like carried out before him like, I'm on official business. But it's also the idea that it's an offering. And so I look at this and say there is very much in this time, in this spiritual sense, as you go into the Cancer energy of this solar eclipse, which is tomorrow at like 10 p.m. our time. As you get into that, there is a spiritual gift that you will be able to use in your real life. And it might be something that is a piece of older wisdom, going way back, older wisdom. It might be part of a spiritual epiphany, but there's going to be like a gift to you that helps you carry forward and that helps you break these old patterns. And I mean, it's interesting. I sort of want to know more about what this can be, but I feel like it's going to be a teaching of some sort, or it's going to be, because this can also be for me like sort of a doorkeeper thing. There's going to be a door that opens up for you. And where that door leads is going to be unclear. But because you're looking for something new, you're looking for a break from the old and from the old dichotomies that are stressful to you and not working, you're probably going to walk into this doorway filled with fog, got a fog machine going, but the music sounds great in there. It promises something beautiful. And so you are going to take measured steps. This is not the card of like leaping off the cliff, but you are moving towards that direction, even if it's something that's difficult to explain to other people or something that for now you kind of want to keep to yourself. There is a sense too where this is the King of Clubs. This is, I don't know, it's high-minded, right? It's heavenly minded. It has to do with these high ideals. And that is why it might be difficult to explain to the uncles on the barrel who are just worried about getting from here to there. That's all they care about. And that might not be all you care about. In fact, it looks like you're cutting some of that off. And so the way you want to move forward in a practical way is probably incorporating a more spiritual mindset and even a sense of mystery and playfulness and self-expression. That seems like the kind of stuff that's going to work in your favor and is going to bring you a new kind of stability on a new set of terms. So I think that's what I see. These are effects that take place over the next 6 months. So just like this Jack of Diamonds isn't like a falling off a cliff, the inspiration may be something that you feel soon to now as a lightning bolt. But your moving into this new realm is going to be something that happens over a process of time. But you are moving into it, even though it's cloudy and secretive and you're not quite sure where these teachings are going to lead. So the mystagogue can be a card of the Hierophant, yes, the high priest, but also a mystic, a shaman. These are the keys at the crossroads and the keys to the realm between life and death. So you are walking in the liminal realm, right? The area between, riding the hedges, as the witches say. So this is very much going into this spiritual between stage, but you are doing it with a sense of reason and prudence and logic, which, as I said, might be hard to explain to some people, but you're not moving this direction in haste or in recklessness. You are moving this direction because it's where you're guided to go. So that's how it's reading to me. So it looks like it's got a very interesting outcome, even if we can't tell where it is yet. So thank you, Kim. Thank you for showing up. Thank you very much if you're watching this reading later. Thank you very much for your likes. I appreciate your comments as well. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, I know this is a long one, but there was a lot to talk about, and I felt like doing just a good old roll up the sleeves, a lot of cards kind of a reading. So let me know if you have any questions or comments about how this is working in your own life. And the next 6 months look really interesting. What is it we're going to cut out, and what is it we're going to discover? What are the spiritual gifts that await us? I don't know, but you let me know. And until next time, rock on with your bad selves.